Have you ever looked at, the world's billionaires and just wondered, what is it? What
Yeah.
really sets them apart?
Yeah.
Is it just like luck
Hmm.
or maybe inheritance? Or is there something else,
Yeah.
something fundamental about how they think?
It's a great question. And honestly, it fascinates a lot of people. The sources we've been digging into, they strongly suggest it's much more about the way they think.
A distinct mindset, maybe.
Exactly. A mindset and a set of pretty deliberate practices they follow.
Okay, so that's what we're doing today. We're
Mm.
kind of peeling back the layers on this whole billionaire mindset idea.
Mm.
And we're not just talking theory here. We've got a stack of articles, research
Mm.
notes, and we're looking at what they reveal about figures like, say, Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk.
Warren Buffett, Oprah Winfrey, some really big names.
Right. How do they approach things like decisions, risk, building these huge ventures?
And the goal for this deep dive really is to pull out the core principles, find those surprising nuggets from all this material.
So that by the end, you, listening, should have a much clearer picture of this approach.
And hopefully find some practical stuff you could actually apply to your own life, your own journey.
Okay, let's do it. Let's dive into this really fascinating landscape of how the wealthiest people actually think.
Great. So when the sources talk about a billionaire mindset, it's important to realize they don't just mean being rich.
Right. It's something deeper.
Yeah, it's more like a foundational operating system for how they tackle problems, how they spot and seize opportunities.
And the very first thing that just jumps out, you see it woven through all their stories, is this almost extreme focus on the long term.
Oh, absolutely.
It's not just planning for, next quarter or next year. It's making decisions today.
Mm-hmm.
That might take 10, 15, maybe even 20 years to really pay off.
That commitment to the, let's call it the distant horizon, seems absolutely key. Our sources really hammer this point.
Like Bezos with AWS.
Exactly like Bezos. The sources highlight how he was famously willing to pour money and resources into things like Amazon Web Services for years.
Yeah, long before it was obviously profitable.
Right. Enduring a ton of skepticism because he saw that long-term potential that, frankly, others just missed. It took a unique kind of patience and real conviction.
That completely flips the script on how most businesses operate, doesn't it? With all the short-term pressures.
Totally.
It means you have to be okay with, well, maybe failing in the short term or being misunderstood. You have to trust that long-term vision.
You really do. Now, another really powerful element the sources explore is something often called first principles thinking. Elon Musk talks about this a lot.
Ah, right. So instead of just tweaking what's already there or doing what everyone else does?
They break challenges down, right down to their most fundamental parts, their basic components.
Okay, so like starting from scratch almost.
Yeah, precisely. The sources show them basically discarding assumptions, tossing out conventional wisdom. They ask, what are the basic, undeniable truths here about this specific problem?
And then they build solutions up from that foundation.
Yes, whether that's rethinking rocket science like Musk did, or energy storage, or whatever the field is, it's this radical bottom-up approach. And according to the material, that's often where the real innovation comes from.
Okay, now here's where it gets, I think, really interesting and maybe a bit uncomfortable for a lot of us.
Mm-hmm.
Their relationship with risk. Our sources are crystal clear.
Yeah.
You don't build significant wealth without embracing significant risk, but it's calculated.
That's the crucial distinction they make, isn't it? It's calculated risk. It's not just being reckless.
Right.
The sources describe them doing intense homework, really intense analysis, stress testing ideas, truly understanding the potential downsides.
They still pull the trigger.
But ultimately, yes, they are willing to put substantial resources, sometimes their reputation, right on the line, all in pursuit of a really big opportunity that, let's face it, others would just shy away from.
So they see risk differently, not as just an obstacle.
More like a necessary cost of admission, you
Yeah.
know, for potentially massive rewards.
And another principle, it seems to underpin so many of their big ventures, is this focus on solving big problems.
Yes, the sources really highlight that. The greatest impact, and often, yeah, the greatest financial success, seems to come from tackling challenges that affect a huge number of people.
So if you look at the examples, like Bill Gates with computing power.
Right, making it accessible. Or Oprah Winfrey, addressing the need for empowering voices, better media representation.
They weren't just creating niche things.
No, they identified these widespread human needs or massive market inefficiencies, and they built solutions thinking about scale right from day one.
Okay, so that gives us a pretty good picture of the thinking, the mindset itself. But what does this actually look like day to day? What are the habits? What do the sources reveal about the habits that actually support this kind of mindset?
Yeah, and this is where the material gets really practical, I think. It's actually less about, glamorous
But
lifestyle.
not yachts and private jets necessarily.
Well, primarily, no. It's more about these foundational disciplines, things
Yeah.
that enable that kind of high performance over decades.
And the one habit that just comes up again and again, it's intense, continuous learning, often just reading a lot.
Warren Buffett is the classic example, isn't he? Spending a huge chunk of his day just reading.
Well, legendary.
But the sources emphasize, look, this isn't unique to him. It's quite common among this group.
And what's fascinating is how the sources frame it. It's like they see knowledge itself as a compounding asset.
Exactly. Reading widely, learning new skills, constantly seeking out information. These aren't just leisure activities for them.
No, they're fundamental investments.
Right. Investments in their primary tool, which is their ability to make good decisions. They really cultivate being lifelong learners.
The sources also touch on something about decision-making speed, this idea of type 1 and type 2 decisions.
Ah, yes. That comes up quite a bit. The material suggests they're incredibly deliberate about telling the difference between decisions that are, like, irreversible, big one-way doors.
Type 1.
Type 1, yeah. And those decisions that can be changed, that you can walk back if needed. Type 2.
Okay. And for the type 2 decisions?
For those, the sources indicate they really prioritize speed. Action over endless analysis.
So gather enough info.
Gather enough information to make an informed choice, act decisively, and then, this is key, be ready to correct course quickly based on the feedback you get.
Which lets them move faster, avoid getting bogged down.
Absolutely. It allows them to move much faster than competitors who might get stuck in, analysis paralysis.
Okay, and here's something that might surprise some people, but our sources really emphasize it. Their focus on physical health.
Yeah, this isn't just vanity. It's not just about looking good.
Right.
No, the material highlights how many of these individuals prioritize, like, rigorous exercise routines, strict sleep schedules, healthy eating.
Why? From a performance perspective.
They seem to view their physical and mental energy as these finite, critical resources. Resources that must be optimized
Handle the pressure.
to sustain the intense demands of their work, and to fuel their cognitive function, their thinking power, over the long haul. It's seen as, like, the essential platform for everything else they do.
Huh. Okay. And then there's networking. That old saying, your network is your net worth. That seems to really resonate in the sources' descriptions.
Oh, definitely. They build incredibly strong and often quite diverse networks.
How so?
Well, the material illustrates them actively cultivating relationships with mentors, experts, peers, potential partners.
It's not just about collecting contacts then.
No, it's about surrounding themselves with smart, often challenging people. People who offer different perspectives, who can open doors, who push their thinking. They essentially build these ecosystems of talent and insight around them.
And finally, something Steve Jobs was famous for, capturing focus.
Yes.
The sources point out that a key differentiator is just their ability to maintain this laser-sharp focus, mostly by saying no to almost everything that doesn't align with their core long-term goals.
And this intense selectivity, it's critical. They aren't scattered. They don't chase every shiny object.
I
They
agree.
concentrate their energy, their capital, their attention on just a few massive bets. The sources show that this deliberate elimination of distraction, it's what allows them to achieve that extraordinary depth and impact in their chosen areas, instead of spreading themselves too thin.
Right. Okay. So now you might be listening to all this and thinking, okay, interesting stuff, but what does any of this have to do with my life, my career?
And that is the critical connection, isn't it? It's the connection our sources really push us to make.
Because these aren't like magic qualities.
Exactly. These aren't mystical things tied only to having 9 or 10 figures in the bank. These are pretty universal principles. Habits of effectiveness, habits of value creation. You absolutely do not need billions to start applying them.
So how? Where do you start?
Well, you can consciously shift your perspective, for one. Start thinking beyond just next week or next month.
Ask yourself.
Yeah, ask yourself, what's one area where I could make a small decision today, just a small one, that might compound positively over, say, the next 5 years?
And practice that first principles thinking,
Yes.
even on your own challenges.
Right. The next time you face a complex problem, at work or anywhere, try stripping away the assumptions.
Yeah.
Ask yourself, okay, what are the absolute facts here? What do I know for sure? And try building your solution up from that solid ground.
And maybe reevaluate your relationship with risk.
Yeah, you don't need to go bet the farm, obviously,
Yeah.
but what's one calculated step you could take? Something just outside your comfort zone.
Like launching that small side project you've been thinking about.
Or pitching a bolder idea at work. Applying for a role that feels like a bit of a stretch. The sources strongly suggest that real growth often comes from taking those kinds of calculated chances.
And invest in yourself.
Yeah.
Treat your knowledge, your energy, like they're your most valuable assets.
Definitely. Schedule time to read. Learn a new skill online. Really protect your sleep. Move your body.
Be intentional about who you spend time with too, right?
Absolutely. Ask, are the people around me lifting me up? Are they challenging me in good ways?
And maybe start looking for bigger problems to solve, even if it's on a smaller scale initially.
Yeah. What need do you see in your community? What process is clearly broken where you work? How can you find ways to create value for more people?
Because the sources aren't just giving us a roadmap to getting rich.
No, they're illustrating a really powerful way to approach building things, creating things, impacting the world. And it seems to revolve around focusing on delivering value at scale.
Okay, so let's just quickly recap the main points from this deep dive.
Sounds good. We've seen that figures like Bezos, Musk, Buffett, Oprah, they really prioritize long-term thinking over those quick, short-term wins. That seems foundational, according to our sources.
Right. And they embrace bold, but importantly, calculated risks. Seeing it as a necessary path to get those disproportionate rewards, they analyze carefully, but then they act where others might hesitate.
They also focus their energy, their resources, on solving big, impactful problems, challenges that affect large numbers of people. That seems key to their scale.
And crucially, these ways of thinking aren't just abstract ideas. They're supported by powerful, very deliberate habits.
Yeah, habits like continuous learning, often through lots of reading, making decisive choices, especially on those reversible type 2 decisions.
Prioritizing physical and mental health as that core performance foundation.
Building really powerful networks of smart people, and maintaining that intense focus by mastering the art of saying no to distractions.
And the core message, the big takeaway pulled from all this material, it's actually quite empowering, isn't it?
It really is, this mindset. It isn't locked away behind some billionaire-only vault door. These principles, the vision, the risk-taking, the problem-solving, the discipline, they are accessible.
You can start to integrate them, starting today, just by consciously shifting how you look at things.
By building these kinds of powerful habits into your daily routine.
And maybe just daring to think a bit bigger about the contributions you want to make.
It's definitely not an overnight switch. It's a continuous process, right, of learning, applying, adjusting.
Absolutely. So as you move forward from this deep dive today, maybe the thought to leave with is just keep learning, keep pushing your own boundaries, and importantly, keep thinking big about what you can build and what you can achieve.